Nike CEO Mark Parker announced that he will be stepping down effective next year. Parker has been at the head of the company for 13 years, but worked as an employee for Nike since 1979. His previous positions include product designers and co-brand president. Parker will be replaced by John Donahoe in January of 2020. Donahoe is currently a board member and the CEO of the cloud company ServiceNow. Nike says that they hope that Donahoe will push the company to become more digital. But Nike may have another issue on its hands. The Zoom X Vaporfly sneaker is coming under scrutiny for giving athletes a seemingly unfair advantage in competition. In the last 13 months, runners who recorded the fastest marathon times ever were wearing the Vaporfly Nike, and now some athletes are demanding an investigation into the shoes ahead of the 2020 Olympics. So joining me now with more on this is Axios sports editor Kendall Baker, who wrote the article on the story. So this is really fascinating to me because, you know, when we talked about the gentleman who broke the 2-hour record, not an official record for running a marathon, we didn't talk about the shoes right away, and my mind was blown. And then when I found out about the shoes, I thought, oh, and in fact, I had read that the shoes could even maybe shave off. I mean, we're not talking about seconds here, we're talking about minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a significant advantage. And the other interesting part about that is that actually the day after Eliud Kipchoge broke that barrier, Brigid Kosgei actually shattered the women's marathon record at the Chicago Marathon wearing a version of the same shoe. So it created a huge debate, just the fact that those two things happened in back-to-back days, and shined a really bright light on this issue of innovation and the arms race in running.
So what's the technology here? What makes this shoe so effective?
So basically, it's a combination of carbon fiber plates and midsole foam, which, you know, very technical, obviously, but in short, it essentially acts as a spring in the shoe. It saves the runner energy, and if you add that up over a long distance like a marathon, that's going to significantly decrease their time.
Is there anything sort of close to it already on the market? Because when you talk about, you know, things that within the shoe that, whether it's materials within the shoe that give you a bit of a bounce back, it seems like there are other shoes that do that, but clearly nothing is close to what this shoe does.
Right, absolutely. I mean, that's the interesting thing about this as well, is that, you know, Nike's obviously, there's a huge light shining on them right now, but that Saucony, you know, a lot of these other brands have similar shoes, and they're obviously all competitors. They're going to try and build, obviously, the almost identical shoe. So this isn't a Nike thing. This is a running, you know, as a whole thing. And there's innovation going on, you know, constantly, and that's going to continue. So that's why the IAAF's decision on this is so important, because, you know, they have to basically balance not curbing innovation, but also, you know, drawing a line somewhere.
Totally. So we're looking ahead to the 2020 Olympics, right? They are considering banning these shoes. What's the debate been like? I mean, is there a possibility that these shoes and this technology could be banned, at least when it comes to running?
So when the news first broke that runners were complaining, you know, a lot of voices were saying that the shoes were going to get banned. I actually just saw this morning that it sounds like they might not get banned, and the IAAF might make a ruling that the only shoes that would be banned are shoes that provide a motor function for runners, I believe is the term they use. So very interesting. I think there was a lot of momentum building in terms of the shoes being banned, but now it sounds like they might not be. So I think in the next week or so, we'll probably find out. But regardless of that outcome, it's going to be very impactful, particularly with the Olympics coming up.
So when I heard about this debate, it obviously reminded me of the debate about 10 years ago or so when it came to the swimsuits that some swimmers in the Olympics were wearing, those sort of full body ones that were shaving off seconds off of their swim time. Those swimsuits were banned. Now you're saying that, you know, it's on the fence whether or not these sneakers are going to be banned. What's the difference?
It's a great comparison. I think it's like the perfect comparison because swimming and running are such basic sports, right? There's no equipment involved. It really is just your body. And so it's a very black and white issue. I think the difference right now in terms of the scale is that with swimming, I think something like 130 world records fell in the span of about 17 months when those suits were released, whereas with the marathon, it's only been 5 so far. You also had those suits were at the Beijing Olympics, and I think that added more pressure because it was on a global platform. People were seeing these records fall, and it was kind of becoming a little ridiculous. So I wonder if this doesn't get banned before the Olympics, if Kipchoge, for instance, runs the marathon, he's the defending champion in another ridiculous time, then maybe there would be more pressure and these would get banned after the Olympics. But I do think that the Beijing Olympics were the main kind of event that pushed the swimming world to ban those suits.
Okay, so here's my other kind of counter argument. It's not really a counter argument, but talking to Eileen here, who works the floor, about this very topic, and she brought up the idea of bobsleds, and as an example, that there's some equipment that it's part of the sport to keep developing the technology, and no one sort of says, well, your bobsled is too technologically advanced, so you can't compete. Could these shoes fall into that same category? The expectation is that not only will the athletes push their bodies, but their entire team will be pushing to find ways for them to remain better protected, but also perform better.
Absolutely. I think, again, going back to the sport of running being so basic, I think that's what makes this such a intriguing conversation. Compared to bobsledding, for example, I think there's more involved than just the sled, right? There's a lot more skill involved. Baseball had a lot of debates with bats, years ago, but there's also more factors in baseball, whereas running, it's literally just running, and the shoes are hugely important. I think that's why there's so much more pressure around this, is because there's nothing else to regulate. Like, this is the main equipment, if you will, and so I think that's where the running argument is so interesting, in that there's nothing else to really regulate.
Right. So we did reach out to Nike. We have not received a comment from them. I'll tell you what, Kendall, I don't know if they're going to be allowed in the Olympics, but as soon as I heard about it, I thought, I want a pair just for my weekend runs, right? This might actually be a boost for Nike.
Exactly. That's. I mean, the second this came out, immediately in my head was, wow, this is maybe a genius marketing ploy.
Right.
I mean, I think $200 shoe. Oh, this guy just wore these and set this record that nobody ever thought would ever fall. Yeah. I'm going to go buy some of those and run. Obviously, suddenly be the fastest person in my running club on the weekends. So it's very interesting in terms of the consumer aspect to this, because the shoes they're selling on the market are a little bit different than what Kipchoge wore. His were a little bit more extreme and a little bit more involved, but the shoe they're selling on the market still has those carbon fiber plates and that midsole foam.
Yeah, his shoes are probably a little more than $200 too. Kendall Baker, thank you so much.
Thank you.